Jonathan Taplin es uno de los grandes personajes del mundo contemporáneo, de ahora, de hoy, de estos días, pero lo fue de antes. Viene de Woodstock, viene de los festivales de la década del 60, de la lucha por los derechos civiles. Fue el manager de Bob Dylan, fue el manager de Janis Joplin, pero no se está dedicando ahora a eso en este momento. Se dedica a denunciar y a investigar, antes de denunciar, a lo que él llama los 4 monstruos. Son los 4 monstruos de lo que algunos denominan tecnofascismo o tecnofeudalismo. Uno de esos monstruos es Peter Thiel, que justamente estuvo en la Argentina y hará inversiones en la Argentina y sobre todo hará negocios en la Argentina con su empresa Palantir. Vamos a entrevistar a Jonathan Taplin, que vino a Buenos Aires invitado por la Universidad de Avellaneda, por un programa que dirige nuestro amigo Jorge Saccagnini, y va a participar en diferentes eventos, uno de ellos en la Feria del Libro, defendiendo a los autores, pero además haciendo otra cosa, dando ideas, no solo un mensaje moral, dando ideas de cómo se puede combatir el avance ya no de la inteligencia artificial, sino de la inteligencia artificial ligada al espionaje, a la inteligencia. Cuando hablo de inteligencia en este caso es la inteligencia para monitorear a los ciudadanos, vigilarnos, para saber qué hacemos, ya no solo qué compramos, sino qué votamos, qué pensamos, qué debemos o no hacer. Los libros de Taplin, el último es El fin de la realidad, tienen que ver con una alerta a favor de la democracia, los derechos civiles y los derechos individuales, aquí en la Argentina, en los Estados Unidos y donde sea. Lo entrevistamos a Taplin. John, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for being here. And you are a man of the 60s. You are a man of Woodstock, of Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, etc., etc., etc. Okay. And now you are the man who is announcing the world, the whole world, the danger of the 4 horsemen. And you have one of those horsemen is Peter Thiel. Is it danger for Argentina?
Yes. So Peter Thiel is coming here probably to sell you a product made by his company Palantir. And it is a product of surveillance. And in its most extreme version, it would allow the government to use facial recognition, to use license plate recognition, to use all of the databases of the Social Security and tax thing, to try and locate who were the dissidents and who was opposing the government. And even though a big open square like this, you have no obligation or expectation of privacy, I noticed that there are many CCTV cameras all around, and they probably have microphones on them as well. And so the ability to take in this gigantic amount of content, and then, and this is where Palantir comes in, be able to use artificial intelligence, AI, to comb through that gigantic amount of material which humans could never look through, to find certain signals, certain kinds of people that it wants to look for, is problematic. And it's being used in the United States to look for illegal immigrants, but there is some assumption that eventually it will be used to look for people who oppose Donald Trump.
So it's not just business, or is business plus power plus surveillance plus intelligence,
Yes.
security?
Yes. Palantir was, the initial investment came from the CIA. So it has always been deeply, deeply involved.
So, the origin is the CIA? The origin of the funds or the project?
The CIA gave the first money to Peter Thiel to found Palantir. The venture money came from the CIA. And so Palantir has always been involved with the national security state. It does many projects for the Defense Department, now called the Department of War. And so you have to be careful. You have to wonder why Peter Thiel is in Argentina trying to sell products, because he's not here just to go on vacation, I promise you.
So as you can see, we have two levels, at the least. The level of business here, and other level to analyze that the business is from abroad and from a power who is abroad. It's not the national power, it's not the Argentine state, it's not the Argentine people, of course.
Yeah, but who's going to pay him for these services?
We.
The government.
We the citizens.
The people.
The people.
Yes.
So we are paying and suffering.
Yes. And that's how the military-industrial complex works.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid, just in the same way that Elon Musk gets paid for Starlink.
Mm-hmm.
And these people like monopolies. Peter Thiel has said the only way to make a profit is have a monopoly. So, I'm sure Palantir would like to be the sole data analytical company for the state of Argentina. I'm sure that Elon Musk would like to be the sole satellite internet provider for Argentina. And if that means financing politicians, they will do that, as they prove. I mean, Elon Musk financed Donald Trump to the tune of $300 million last year.
You know that in Argentina, Milei, during the electoral campaign, said the same. The perfect model is the monopoly.
Yes, totally. Milei fashions himself as a libertarian, and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are both libertarians. But libertarian really just means that there should be no regulation. And as far as I can see, and obviously I'm come from the United States, so I'm not that deeply involved in Argentine politics, but there's very little regulation on Peter Thiel or Elon Musk's business as far as Milei is concerned.
And in the United States, there is regulation or not?
None. None.
So not in the United States, neither in Argentina.
The internet sector in the United States has a protection called Section 230 that gives them a liability shield so that no one can sue Facebook, no one can sue Google, no one can sue X for what's on their platforms, even if it's libelous or anything else. And that's the kind of protection, liability shield, that is not provided to any other company in the United States. So the idea was that the internet needed some special protections to flourish. But now Google is the largest company by market cap in the United States. It's not some little company needing help. So some of these things need to be changed, and especially in the age of AI. If you understand the fact that every musician, for instance, I come out of the music business, every musician in the world has had their content downloaded into one of these music AI manufacturing models without compensation, without any permission, just taken off of YouTube. And now Spotify reports that it has 25,000 AI-generated tracks uploaded every single day.
Every day.
Every day to
And
Spotify.
you know music very well because you were the manager
Right.
of Dylan and Janis Joplin. So, which kind of music are they
Well,
producing?
what is called is AI slop, SLOP, and it's just junk. It sounds maybe a little like Bob Dylan, but it's not Bob Dylan. and it's, you know, someone wrote, write me an anti-war song like Bob Dylan, and it'll write it
Copy him.
completely. But how did it know what Bob Dylan sounds like? Because it took all of Bob Dylan's tracks into its system, and that's how it learned. And these people use this thing called fair use, saying they have the right to take these things to educate their systems. But it's a complete misuse of the idea of fair use.
With this system of with these monsters like Palantir and Peter Thiel, we can expect more wars?
Yeah. Well, look,
And which kind of wars?
Palantir makes money off of war. Peter Thiel's satellite, his drone company, Anduril, makes money in Iran all the time. They're supplying most of the drones that the United States is using against the Iranian drones, because the United States quickly figured out that they were using, $10 million missiles to shoot down $25,000 Iranian drones. That didn't make a lot of sense, so now they're making their own drones, thanks to Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen. So of course they make money off of.
But they're stimulating more wars at the same time?
Well, certainly, I think part of the problem Donald Trump is in such political trouble right now is that he ran on the promise that there would be no more stupid wars. And then he changed his promise completely, and he invaded Venezuela and grabbed their president. He invaded Iran. He wants to invade Panama, and he wants to invade Greenland. And America has become the great imperialist nation, which hasn't been the way it was since 1890s when we...
But at the same time, he's not popular as a warrior now.
He's not
Trump. He's not popular as a warrior.
Not popular at all. His positive ratings are down to 32%. So it's a disaster, and it's not something that will be sustainable.
What will we, or could make Trump with the next elections, the midterm elections in November? What's your opinion or your scenario, at least?
I am worried that
Right.
Trump will be so afraid of losing power that he will do extraordinary things to mess with the election. So he could declare a state of emergency, and he could deploy his internal security forces called ICE, and around every polling place you could have armed men with guns and masks, and needless to say, that would probably intimidate enough people.
He has the political power to do that?
He has the power to do that.
Yes?
Yes.
Even if he's not popular now, even
Yes.
with that.
Yes, because the reason, for instance, the ICE, the immigration people went into Minneapolis was Trump declared an emergency. He said Minneapolis was an emergency situation, and so he could do whatever he wants to do. And because the Congress is so passive, the Republican Congress, and they're all so afraid of him that they'd never oppose him on anything, he basically can rule like a king, which is why the demonstrations against Trump are called No More Kings, because that's exactly the way he's ruling the country.
But the demonstrations were very big at the same time. The No King demonstration were very, very huge.
Yes. No, there's a lot of opposition to Trump right now. But the question is, can he pull the strings in such a way to affect the outcome of the election, the midterm elections? Because if the polling is correct, then the Republicans are going to lose power completely. They're going to lose both the Congress and the Senate. But the question is, could he use some extraordinary efforts to get this overturned, or say it was all corrupt, phony election, you know, the kind of thing he's been saying for 10 years.
John, do you have examples of, concrete examples of opposition to this expansion of the so-called techno-fascism in the United States?
Well, I mean, the examples are coming from artists first and journalists. So the New York Times is suing OpenAI because OpenAI has ingested all of the New York Times journalism to train their model. So they're suing them for a lot of money. Certainly, many musicians are suing these companies that make slop AI music. Certainly, for instance, Getty Images is suing Stable Diffusion, the company that stole all of their images and is selling them now to people to make new images with them. So there's a lot of battles in the courts, and then there's state legislatures who are passing some regulation, like
Where?
California passed.
California.
And you think about California, it's the fourth largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
It's not just a state, it's like a country. And so when California passes something, then all these companies really have to pay attention.
Which kind of law in California?
Well, the law that was passed in California is that every one of these AI models needs to be inspected before it's allowed to be released to the public. I think also California is about to pass a law that says that they cannot take copyrighted content for training purposes without permission and without payment. So those two things would make a huge difference. But Trump is trying to override that and has written an executive order saying that that's illegal, and he's fighting California in the courts. And we'll see. I mean, the question of federalism is really one that's important to be fought out, especially in a time when, somehow we grew up with the illusion that there would be checks and balances, that the natural way, the American system was set up was you have three branches, you have a legislative, an executive, and a judicial. But today, both the legislative and the judicial branch are totally in the pocket of the executive branch. So you really are ruled by only the king, King Trump.
King Trump. You're a man of the 60s. You're a man of Woodstock. No, not only Dylan and Janis Joplin, but Woodstock. So, which is your personal role, your personal path from there to now?
Well,
why are you doing these things now, or worrying about these things and
Right. Obviously, I grew up in the 60s with two very large social movements in the United States. One was the civil rights movement, so that black people should be allowed to vote, they should be able to go to the same restaurants and everybody else.
the same buses?
Yeah. And that was a very powerful movement, but it was also driven in part by artists. I mean, Bob Dylan sang at the Martin Luther King's March on Washington, And then there was the Vietnam War. And needless to say, anyone as young as I was didn't want to go to the war and could get drafted. And so we were worried and fought about that. And again, artists were part of that dissident movement to try and stop the war and led these huge marches all the time through the late 60s. What's missing today, of course, is the artist protest. You know, where are the young artists protesting Trump? You know, I mean...
They're not?
Well, I mean, the older artists like Bruce Springsteen are
okay.
still protesting, and Bono.
You mean the youngest?
But the young ones are curiously quiet.
And why? They are afraid?
Well, I have a theory, which is that AI has a way of making people passive. You know, I mean, it's just, if you think about AI, because I taught a lot at university, if you think, well, why should I do all this studying when I can just let ChatGPT write my essay on this subject? Why should I have to do anything? I can just cruise through college and let the AI do all my work. And this is very frustrating for professors, right? Because A, it's getting harder and harder to tell what's written by an AI and what's written by a student. And you know, it's funny, I had a professor colleague who caught one of his students having written a long essay, and the way he caught him was that all the citations were like completely screwy. They were to publications that didn't exist or just made up citations, which sometimes AI does. It hallucinates, right? So they called the student in, and he was like a kind of snotty, young 20-year-old, and they said, well, we're going to fail you on this paper. You're going to get an F. And in an era of grade inflation, that's like, oh my God, nobody gets it.
So I discovered that other danger, the IA is getting young people more passive.
It's making them more passive. And the kid's response to, well, why should I not be able to use this tool?
But also political passive.
Right, yeah. And, you know, obviously, Aldous Huxley, I don't know if there's someone to read down here, but he wrote a book called Brave New World.
Yeah.
And in that world, it wasn't that, like George Orwell's The Boot Stomping on Your Neck, it was that people were being entertained, and they would take drugs, and they would do all this stuff, and they would be so blissed out that they wouldn't worry about the government telling them what to do. So that's, I'm afraid, the place we've fallen into. And I don't know, you know, you still have a union movement in Argentina that seems pretty strong. In America, the union movement is very weak. From 1980s on, the right wing has done everything they could to make it impossible for unions. And so the unions used to be the big source of financing for the Democratic Party, and now they aren't anymore. And so the Democratic Party had to go to Silicon Valley to get their money, and now that's not working out well either.
John, the last one, you're a fighter. Optimistic or pessimistic?
I'm optimistic. Just because I believe at the end of the day, people will not put up with authoritarian governments. I think there's just a long history in the United States of resisting that, and then I think there's probably a history in Argentina resisting authoritarians too.
Thank you very much, John.
My pleasure.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Sergio.
Fue Jonathan Taplin en Y Ahora Que.